All right. Question was about, tell us about the decision, right?
Yeah.
So LinkedIn at its core has been very involved in open source communities from day one. If anyone's heard of the Kafka pipeline, that's something we built. If you go to GitHub, you'll see like hundreds of open source projects. So it's one of the things that is one of our core tenets. And as we got into the data center space and hardware and software for infrastructure, we decided that we will get involved in communities from the very beginning. So one of our first sort of I would say adventure into this area was we were trying to find a switch operating system that would work well with some of with our desire to be in controlling our destiny in sort of the switching area. So that's how we got involved in Sonic. About 3-4 years ago, actually. So even before we joined OCP, we were really involved in that. And
now, Sonic is a Microsoft project.
Yes.
And you guys were involved in Sonic long before Microsoft acquired LinkedIn.
Absolutely, because we found it to be the best platform. We looked at a few of them. We even started writing our own, and then we decided that we will leverage Sonic. And we've been involved in Sonic development for a while. And then we joined officially OCP, I think last May, and our first contribution since then has been Open 19.
Yeah, that's right. So you're involved in Sonic with Microsoft, and I just want to mention that Alibaba has been very involved in Sonic and a huge contributor. We have meetups, and in fact, I think LinkedIn hosted one of the recent meetups. We've had meetups over here as well, so huge following on Sonic. That's exciting. What are some of the benefits that you've received from that involvement maybe in Sonic or in other OCP projects?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the community, right? Number one is that you get instantly plugged in, and I think OCP lends to that. Community of engineers is sort of one angle. The other angle is that the vendors that are involved in OCP is another angle that helps us to have that communication, the feedback, so that when we're building something, we have both sides of the coin sort of like help working together on this.
Okay. Any recommendations you'd make to the audience on how to get involved?
I would say, definitely get involved. Join the various working groups. You can go to the OCP site and find meetings. Get super involved. Even if you are not even if you're just curious, it just sort of helps. And the community also wants a lot of engineers to come and solve some of these very complicated problems. And I think that's sort of the core of joining these communities in OCP.
Okay, thank you. So when OCP got started in 2011, we were on a journey to solve efficiency and scalability from hyperscalers, in this case, primarily driven by Facebook. And we saw similar efforts here in China with ODCC, and Baidu and Alibaba and Tencent were really on a similar journey to try to figure out how they scaled their data center and really drove efficiency well beyond what they could get with standardized rack products. And so you did the same thing, and about that same time or a few years later, you started a project called Open 19. Subsequent to that, that product was contributed. The design was contributed to the OCP Foundation as you guys got more and more involved. Can you share your thoughts on that journey, and specifically your thoughts on whether or not there's an opportunity to converge on these various rack architectures? I'm putting you on the spot on this.
That's a loaded question there.
I know.
A lot of things to think about. Okay, let's start with the journey. So back, as you were saying, in 2011 when OCP was started, primarily driven by Facebook, I think that the rack design back then was really around the 21-inch design, right? So at LinkedIn, we were not quite the hyperscale that we are right now. We were kind of a little bit of a mid-size. Our data center folks wanted just, hey, we have a 19-inch rack solution. There isn't a 19-inch rack solution. I don't think we want to go 21-inch. So a few years back, this is prior to sort of where we are now, we had two sort of considerations. One was like, hey, we want something that that we can take advantage of economies at scale, but at 19-inch. The other one was that we were really densing up our compute. So we wanted some architecture that was very specific to what we wanted to achieve, which is we wanted to rack up to 96 servers per rack, and going up to 15 kW or even higher. So that was something unique that was in our requirement. So we decided, hey, why don't we create this thing first for us and solve the problem inside our data center, and then see if this is something that other folks in the community would also be wanting to solve. And so that's really how we started, and so that was the core of like how Open 19 came about, is that we wanted a 19.8 solution that's super dense, and also we wanted to solve all these massive cabling problems and make a solution that was super simple, fast deployment, and also very economical.
Yeah, and the cabling problem really was solved, and I think you'll hear.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to talk to the audience this afternoon about that.
Right.
And there's some great technology there. But how about convergence?
Yes.
I'm going to use that nasty C word.
Yeah.
Here.
So the thing that we realized along that time, from OCP, Open 19, we started to see that there's other rack architectures that were coming around, and I think that as an engineer. It's very normal for people to say, hey, I'm going to build this solution. It's super important for what my use case is. And then you go to the other sort of set of communities. They have the same aspirations. And at the end of the day, when you look at across all of these architectures, there's a lot of common things. So I think that convergence is a natural thing. Yeah. We start off sometimes trying to solve all these problems. And there are, at that time when we all start those things, there are reasons for it, and it's super valid, right? But at some stage, it gets to that point where a supply chain will be an issue, or just like, hey, how many things do we want to solve that are very similar? So we start to sort of hit that point, and I think right now in the market, we're at that point where we should be talking about, hey, let's converge some of these platforms together and make sure that we can be a force multiplier instead of trying to solve all these problems individually.
Well, I think you hit on something early on. All of us that were involved in these various new rack architectures, we focused on why we were different. And after a few years, we could now have a conversation about why we're the same.
Right.
And how we're the same.
Absolutely. And we're not that different.
Yeah. It turns out that we actually have a lot of commonality, right?
Yep.
We're still trying to solve the big problems, right? We want scale, we want serviceability, we want efficiency. We want to make an impact to our business and to the rest of the world. So
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for joining me. We're gonna hear from you this afternoon again.
Look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zaid. Thank you, Zaid.